As Israel expands its cross-border strikes, hitting back at Houthi rebels in Yemen, what does it mean for the conflict across the region? Dr. Elisabeth Kendall is head of Girton College at the University of Cambridge and is an expert on Yemen.
The Houthis actually have in their slogan the words "Death to Israel" and "A curse on the Jews." About 220 plus missiles and drones have been launched by the Houthis at Israel so far. Only a few of them have actually got through Israel's air defences. So over the weekend, the Houthis vowed to up their attacks against Israel because of two events. One was the killing of Hassan Nasrallah, the head of Hezbollah. The second is because it's coming up to the anniversary of those October the 7th attacks. The Houthis were probably the next best game for Iran to use, following the massive pummeling of Hamas in Gaza and the decapitation of Hezbollah in Lebanon.
What do you think this tells us about the proxy conflict and particularly what's happening in Iran, which is seen as crucial at the moment?
I think the proxy conflict is starting to fall apart. If I were Iran, I'd be getting very worried now because one by one, members of its so-called axis of resistance are being taken out. So as one by one, these members of the axis of resistance, these proxies of Iran fall, it leaves Iran exposed. Without having their guns turned on Israel for leverage, Iran could face Israel's fire without Israel fearing repercussions.
How much is Iran's domestic situation relevant to its decision-making at the moment strategically, particularly the economic situation in Iran and political tensions as well?
I think that the internal politics of Iran has meant that it hasn't wanted to respond in any radical or dramatic fashion to the series of strikes that have been facing it and its proxies. And don't forget the killing of Ismail Haniyeh, the political leader of Hamas, on Iranian territory on the day that President Pezeshkian was inaugurated was dramatic and a big slap in the face for Iran. But because of its internal strife, its domestic unrest and its very dire economic situation, it doesn't want an all-out war. That has now left Israel, in a sense, off the leash to start pushing ever further, pushing its boundaries, pushing its red lines ever further.
In the past year, again and again, we've had these headlines of fears of a broader conflict in the Middle East. Are those headlines accurate, or are we heading towards that time perhaps now?
In some ways, it's a bit like boiling a frog, isn't it? You just don't know when it's actually happened. If we were to look forward from a year ago to now, we'd think this regional all-out war is already happening. And so if we look around, we've had not just Palestine and Israel, not just Gaza, but the West Bank. We've now had Lebanon involved. We've had strikes directly on Israel by Iran. We've had Israel hitting inside Iran. We've got Lebanon completely embroiled and Yemen now too. So it feels like a regional war. Could it get worse? Absolutely, it could get worse. And I think it probably will.
That's Dr. Elisabeth Kendall there, head of Girton College at the University of Cambridge and an expert on Yemen.